Kodansha, known for publishing works like Akira and Ghost of the Shell, is launching a new promotion for Weekly Young Magazine, a manga publication released weekly in Japan. This time, it's a special edition for readers in the United States, Young Magazine USA. Normally, when a new manga debuts, its success is dependent on how it's received by Japanese readers. But Kodansha is going to flip things around by giving US readers the chance to decide, judging by their first chapters, which out of a set of 16 brand new series, will continue into regular serialization into Weekly Young Magazine, in addition to being featured on Kodansha's digital manga service, K-Manga. All of the new series in question are adult-targeted seinen manga with elements of science fiction, dark horror, and cyberpunk. Not only will they be made available through official accounts on X, but there will also be a physical magazine distributed at Anime NYC and Kinokuniya, making the release into a tangible product for manga fans to enjoy. The winning manga will be serialized based on the results of voting in the US. To vote, you can either do it on X or on the Young Magazine official website. On X, each like and repost counts as one vote. Votes are valid across all down-thread posts related to the target manga. On Young Magazine's official website, you can vote once per day, and you can vote for the same manga every day or for different works. Both are allowed. This was a really cool project, and I'm so impressed by all of these creators' works. It's fascinating to see a wide range of genres and titles and how they're all carefully crafted to introduce their world and their ideas. Art is both a product of the head and the heart, and so it's a real treat to see these artists introduce their craft. While all 16 titles were exceptionally done, there were a few titles that stood out to me the most. Project Metallia by Yukito Iwai is a cool sci-fi cyberpunk story that chronicles a team of 4 on the Federal Aeronautics and Space Administration who are tasked with finding the missing chief scientist, Sophie Arakawa, who disappeared after an explosion on the lunar city of New Hong Kong, and their mission goes awry when they face off against a mysterious lifeform. I really enjoyed this first chapter of this title because the plot is relatively simple and straightforward, but its very simplicity makes it interesting. It's enticing. It gives the story room for tons of possibilities. The character designs work well, the art is excellent, and the setting of a city on the moon with the addition of cyberpunk aesthetics is a fascinating blend. The story seems to explore not only the intriguing plot, but also the thrill of a good rescue mission. And I love a good rescue mission because whatever could go wrong often ends up going wrong. One aspect of Project Metallia that excited me was the likely exploration of themes like bodily autonomy, individuality, and the loss of self and identity through the enhancements of the human body with technological implants, but also with foreign matter. Iwai has crafted a story with a very good hook. It's fast-paced and it's right to the point, and I love that for an opening chapter. It really leaves you wanting more. The journey of a dark elf with fading powers has some of the best art I've seen from any manga, honestly. Mangaka Daisuke Itabashi's characters, animals, and landscapes are so detailed, so expressive, and such a visual treat. It follows a dark elf who was formerly the greatest sorcerer in the world, whose magical powers have been fading away over the past couple of years. The protagonist is forced to re-navigate a world they were familiar with, a world that is built for people who have powers. In that world, everyone has powers, now except for her. The character designs again are stunning and rich, and the story seems to follow the slice of life genre with a good blend of fantasy as well. And the idea of finding a place in a world that is not meant for you is a really relevant and thought-provoking idea. If fantasy, comedy, and slice of life with real depth is your cup of tea, then this is the story for you. The Night of Blasphemy by Ray Kindo is an epic historical fantasy that follows Gerard, an orphan who's found refuge and mentorship under a priest in the monastery of Esteluna. The story follows the tenet that there are 2 notions of righteousness. Essentially, there are 2 religions in that world with 2 different gods, Esteluna and Dorna, both of which oppose each other and have claimed countless lives over the ages in the name of their gods. Gerard seeks out what true righteousness is, and will face the scorn of being branded a blasphemer, one who rejects religion, in order to try and remain good and try and not claim a life. This story sets itself up for a grand adventure, and I love a good adventure story. What I like the most about it, and a trope in general that I enjoy, is the character who tries to remain steadfast and unchanging and good, despite the entire world trying to change them. The question that it asks is, how do they answer that call? How do they navigate that world? Will they change? Kendo has set their protagonist up for that treacherous journey. The art style is sharp, and I really like the character design of the knights in this story. There are some good and poignant themes about organized religion, goodness, righteousness, and I think for anyone who loves historical fantasy, this is right up their alley. It's truly shaping up to be an epic. 300 years ago, the Earth died. Humans escaped to the moon, and Mars built colonies. Joe, the protagonist, is a part of the Spatial Security Force, tasked to defend against space pirates. When the reckless protagonist catches one of these pirates, a pilot, he is forced to bring him in for interrogation. The Last Terran, written by Hiroshi Takashige and illustrated by Tatsumi Hitomoji, is another dark robot science fiction story whose art first blew me away. This story really captures the darkness of the galaxy. There is a sense of dread that is felt behind the shading, the backgrounds, and these characters' expressions. There is an uneasiness that hangs over almost every single panel that creates the mood and the setting of this manga. The people sometimes look kind of like skeletons being thrust around the weightlessness of space. It's a bit horrifying actually, and it fits in line with this idea that even in space, humans will always battle one another. They will always be selfish. They will always desire power. My favorite part of the chapter is the discovery that the pilot that Joe found is actually an Earthling who is supposed to be extinct. Not only was the reveal great, the idea of framing humans of Earth as the antagonists is a very interesting idea. It's a story that at its core is very human, and it contains human elements of discovery, revenge, and survival, and it also tackles human nature. I've never had an inclination towards big robot or mecha stories, but this premise really got me, and the first chapter was really good. Boys Run the Riot is fascinating, it's relevant, and it feels like a letter to the creator's own experience. It is authored by Keito Gaku, and it follows Ryo Watari, a transgender boy, as he navigates the expectations and struggles of his daily life with family and friends, all while trying to improve in his life and his career, starting a fashion brand with his friend. In this first chapter, I think the thing that stands out is that the characters feel very real. Ryo's anxieties about interactions that we as cisgender folk often take for granted were incredibly eye-opening. I don't have to think about how the rest of the world may view me, or how my gender expression might impact my job, or my interactions. But seeing Ryo's perspective, having to navigate these everyday struggles, these everyday moments, while having gender dysphoria and while trying to live his life, how much of a deterrent that is. It's a perspective that is incredibly important. I'm incredibly grateful for stories like these that illuminate a very different life from my own. It's stories like these that give us the appreciation for walks of life that are much different from our own. It helps us understand that we all struggle, and I think reading and reflecting on these stories make us more empathetic and more kind, and more understanding and accepting of people. Now, it is a story about a very specific experience, but I think there's a message and a takeaway that everyone can take away from this manga, which I enjoyed a lot. I also really like the attention to detail in the art. Boys Run the Riot is about the intersection of fashion and gender, and so these characters were all dressed in unique and quite fashionable ways. And if you know me, you know that I do love a good fit. Gaku's manga combines an endearing story with some real good fits. This project was such an enjoyable experience. There's no right choice. Every manga in this magazine deserves praise and spotlight. These were just my personal favorites, and the ones I think you guys watching would resonate with the most. I think we all have certain genres and tropes and ideas that we are naturally drawn to. I'm generally not the biggest fan of stories that deal with outer space and technology, and yet two of the most interesting stories on my list have both of those things. I've only got one manga on my list that appears to be a more typical, action-focused story that I would often find myself drawn to. But it's for that exact reason why getting the weekly Young magazine for yourself is so important. We live in a time where we get to curate so much of our own experiences. We have our tropes and our niches and our genres that we like, and while that's good to find things that you enjoy, we can block ourselves off from trying a genre that we might not have otherwise been into. Being forced to experience all of the different titles and genres and different perspectives, from horror to slice of life to romance to LGBTQ+ stories, I guarantee you that, like myself, you will find yourself intrigued in at least one story that you might have not picked up otherwise. And to me, that is the beauty of these magazines. So make sure to get yourself a copy, sign up, and vote on what you believe to be the best new series. And again, the winning manga will be serialized based on the results of the voting in the US. Once again, to vote, you can either do it on X or on the Young Magazine official website.